hit the button.
Are we going out?
Let me check.
Sound.
All right. Video's going out.
Going
Let's see if
out.
the audio is going out. Let me check.
Sound.
Yep, we're good.
From the industrial wastelands of Michigan to the fruited plains of Iowa, this is the American Greed Factory.
Why relate to its sheer perversity?
You are the dead. Remain exactly where you are. Make no move until you are ordered.
We burn them to ashes and then burn the ashes. That's our official motto.
Now we can see you. Clasp your hands behind your heads. Stand out in the middle of the room. Stand back to back.
Who can explain the fascination of fire? What draws us to it, whether we're young or old?
Here comes the candles will light you to bed. Here comes the chopper to chop off your head.
And welcome to the American Greed Factory podcast. This is Nathan.
And this is Conlon.
Tonight we have some fabulous stuff to talk about. America's new national anthem movie, Joker. We both saw that. Watched Christopher Pine movie on Netflix called The Outlaw King, which was an interesting revisionist Scottish history of a follow-up to a sequel to Braveheart. And lots of other stuff. Lots of books and other ways to entertain yourself and ignore the existential doom coming our way.
I mean, I was Joe Rogan had Kyle Carpenter on his podcast, and I was like really excited to listen to that podcast, and I got like bummed out like the first 5 minutes in.
Who's Kyle Carpenter?
He is a Medal of Honor award winner, and he's a Marine. I think
Okay.
he jumped on a grenade and survived.
Holy shit! I missed that one. Well, I didn't do a lot of podcasting. So.
Or I think he took his helmet off and put it over the grenade. Anyway, he got blown the fuck up, and he's actually like been pretty well reconstructed.
Okay.
So there's only 2 living Medal of Honor Marines. There's Kyle Carpenter, and there is I just forgot his name. Dakota Meyer, who was on Demolition Ranch a while back. It's like, oh, cool, and he has like a. It's weird. It'd probably be weird, but he has like his business. It's either his main business or his side business, but he like runs like a company that deals like patriotic art.
Okay.
Like is just like not what I expected.
Where are we going, guys? What are we doing?
I mean, it seems like, oh, you're into artistic stuff. It's like, well, that's kind of handsy-pansy for a Medal of Honor, a hardcore Marine. It's like, oh, that's patriotic. Okay, that's your twist on it. Okay, that's fine. All right, whatever. Yeah.
Made the American flag out of bullets,
Yeah, pretty much.
stuff like that. Shell casings.
But no, like it's like 5 minutes into the podcast, and it's just like, he's talking about his experiences, and like it's kind of neat, like talking about how he just has a wild different perspective on things because of his experiences, and like I respect that. But then he just like immediately gets into like people are too enamored with like violence in video games and in television and stuff, and it's like, oh fuck, just immediately going to blame media and television and video games for why people are like with skewed priorities.
Video games and movie violence. America's next satanic panic.
But then I was like thinking about why did that rub me the wrong way, or why are people preoccupied with these things? Because people can actually change these things. If they're mad about these things, something might change. Other aspects of their life, there's nothing they can do about it because nothing's going to change whether they have an opinion or not.
Yeah. Well, I guess. I don't know.
That's why it's easy to blame things like, movies and video games. But
yeah, that's the violence we have in our society is a symptom of a problem. It is not the problem. It's obsession with violence and violent entertainment and violent escapism. It's been around since the dawn of man. When you're not actively killing each other, you're reading books about each other or putting on plays, or now we have movies, and mass media. But yeah, it's always been about that and sex. It's like those are the two things that preoccupy your mind. It's just like all the history that I love and read, and occasionally read. I mean, sometimes I'll take a break and read something about, like, I just got done reading a while back. Like, I read a book about the Donner Party. I read a book about like the Great Awakening, like of spiritualism in America, what led to like the founding of the Mormon Church and the Quakers. Sometimes I'll take a sideline down that road because it's like, oh, this is interesting, I want to know about. But 90% of the stuff I read is about violence, war. Even if it doesn't glorify it, it's still like the topic. And
I mean, the book we read last, it was like, here's the World's Fair and a serial killer.
It's all, and that was just like, that whole book was just contrasting between the light and dark side of mankind. That was like, this is the white city, the best thing, the city of the future, the promise of America. Oh, and here's a guy who built a live crematorium in his house and killed a bunch of people. Well, probably they don't even know how many people. And the two stories were only related by, where they were located. But yeah, that was, but people always, anyway, but my point is, it's like, yeah, people like to read about that. Nobody likes to read a book about bean farming unless there's like a gun battle in it, or there's some kind of, some of those feel good books.
I don't know, I never read Grapes of Wrath. I hear that's like horrifying.
Yeah, it is. Well, the thing about Grapes of Wrath is like when I read books about, like, say, even fictionalized war or historical war or some kind of great human conflict, never participated in any of that, probably never will. So it kind of takes me outside of it, like, oh, okay, yeah, I never thought of it this way. Grapes of Wrath, like, oh, you can very easily imagine yourself winding up like that family, just bitter, poor people cruising across the country during the Depression, just a family slowly, artfully falling apart. It's like, oh, these are real things. This shit, like, totally see this stuff happening. But yeah. So it's just like the Donner Party, like that book. It's, I mean, 200 or however long ago it was. But it's like, yeah, I could see, like, everyone talks about it, like, oh, cannibalism. Ooh, that's so weird. But yeah, if you're starving to death to the point where that becomes an option, where that starts moving into your field of vision, you're in a bad situation. And that could happen to all of us. I mean, not likely in 21st century America, but you never know which way things are going to go if the great bugaboo happens.
You're going to get the boogaloo?
Yeah, the boogaloo. You might need to eat your neighbors or something. Don't do that on the first day.
Yeah, I mean, most things are perishable. Most things you steal from the grocery store are at least perishable to 6 months to a year, so you're good for that. After that,
it's game on.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But yeah, I have to go back and listen to it, but I'm just like, I don't want to listen to this screed for the next 2 hours. I'm very sure Joe Rogan and him get onto another topic like immediately after that. But
wasn't this his sober time? Or him
I saw there was an episode I downloaded where it was like him and fucking, what's the guy?
Bert Kreischer and Shafir and
the guy from Your Mom's House podcast. Why am I forgetting his name?
Yeah, it's him and his wife.
It's Christina Pazitsky and what's his name? God damn it! Oh, he's every time he shows up on Joe Rogan, I like have to listen to it because I'm very selective when I listen to Joe Rogan. It's like, all right, this better be a good one.
Sometimes I let them pile up for a few weeks, unless there's
unless there's a fight and there's like 5 different podcasts and there's 3 of them are for MMA shit.
Yeah, then I kind of tap out. But yeah, that's the only ones I'll vector in on now are like, oh well, Joey Diaz is on. We gotta look for this because this is gonna be amazing.
But yeah, I saw that. I didn't listen to the episode, but it was like Sober October, and I'm guessing they're.
Yeah. Yeah, this is his sober time. I've done, so sometimes his podcast will take a more somber turn because he's not high or drunk during the podcast. So it's like, oh,
now he'll just spend more time in his hyperbaric chamber tank or whatever.
Yeah. Of course, now California's on fire again. I don't know if that affects him. I don't know where he lives in California, but it's close
Well,
to
that studio's in L.A., but I'm not sure where he lives in L.A. So,
Yeah.
for all I know, he like has a helicopter pad out back, and it's like, "Fuck this traffic."
Always talking about his Tesla, so I know he lives within 150 miles. Wherever. But yeah. Yep, that's other podcasts. They're fun. Cool.
Yeah, some other podcasts. I was listening to the Waypoint Radio podcast, and they were talking about something I never heard of. It was like I think it was some Japanese professor like in the early '90s came out with this book called like The End of History or something like that, where it's like something about there'll be no more new history because like humanity's on a path towards greatness or something like that. I can't remember.
Okay.
And that didn't work out.
Well, there was a period they called the gay 90s. And of course, this was the 1890s when they thought like, oh, we've solved all our problems. I mean, this was like Devil in the White City time frame.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, we've solved all our problems. War is a thing of the past. Poverty and need will be industrialized away. There will be no more great, tragic human wars in the next 500 years. And literally World War I happened 11 years after. No, 20 years after. And then World War II, which is just really World War I Part 2. It's kind of just a continuous war with a little break in the middle, and that names and faces and ideologies change. But yeah, that's... So yeah, they. I remember in the '90s they were actually like talking about. There was a lot of optimism, like, oh, there's not, it's the end of need. Because there was when Clinton. I think the last 3 years of Clinton, there was like no war in the world. Like there were like little conflicts, but there were no major wars. Like the Palestinians.
Well, not like there's like civil wars all over the place, but like there's no like countries at war with each other.
Yeah, at least like they say on Family Guy, not in the places where God pays attention.
No.
But they, like even the Israelis and the Palestinians, like they thought, oh, there's going to be some kind of
like the worship was going on with like Czechoslovakia and fucking moves because they aren't even countries anymore, right?
Oh, you mean the Serbia, Croatian?
Yeah.
Yeah, that had ended by then.
Okay.
It was like the end of his presidency. It's like, well, everything is looking pretty good. I mean, it's like, we're not at war with the Russians or threatening war. And the we had that controversial election, Gore versus Bush, and then in about September 2001, everything took a turn. It's never really righted itself. There's always I always like these times when they talk about like, this is the time, this is that golden age of humanity, the end of conflict. And that's like the cool thing about like the late 40s and the 50s and even into the 60s when they actually like there was such optimism around. It's like, well, we got bad stuff going on, but I mean, we went from like can we make enough rifles to fight the Germans to the atom bomb in 4 years? Everyone thought, well, we're going to see these huge technological leaps now. And now no one's like, it's like, oh, okay. Now we know how particle physics works. And it's like, well, we're not going to space anytime soon. Not far, far away, at least.
Well, not as human beings.
Yeah, and I mean, maybe as robots.
I think Moore's law is, which was an actual law, it's just a thing, is starting to not be true anymore.
Oh no! According to some guy declared the end of Moore's law because we're kind of at the end of, and believe me, I'm not a computer expert, but how did he say it? It's like the data channels are getting so small. We're like 3 atoms wide now, and we can't get much smaller than that because they'll just start jumping over each other.
Yeah.
And we're kind of at the physical limit of what we can do with the technology we have. But that we were at the physical limit of what technology could do with computers in the 50s too, and then that all changed.
Well, that's where like quantum computing comes in, because like with binary computing, like there's a limit where it's like if once you get into quantum computing, the limit gets weirder. Like it's not that it's limitless. It's just that like instead of binary where it's like literally two positions, it's like 8 or whatever.
32, I think.
Yeah, I don't know.
However many electrons orbit the whatever. Yeah, I don't understand.
When you read about quantum computing, it's like, oh man, I wish I understood this because all the words sound really fucking cool. But
Sound cool. Well, another thing I've heard is that's why like there's been this big push for making artificial diamonds, which we've been able to do for a long time, but it's never been scalable because it took so much energy to do it. It's like, well, yeah, we can make fake diamonds, or we can make real diamonds artificially that are flawless, but it costs $10,000 a carat. But now they've refined that technology quite a bit, and like a lot of companies are selling like these are, you know, man-made diamonds, but they're actually like perfectly clear, or they have a high clarity. But I've heard the real emphasis behind that is instead of using silicon and sapphire, they want to use silicon on diamond plates because the kind of heat resistance that has is incredible.
yeah,
It wouldn't make it smaller, but it would make it a lot more powerful without overheating and burning up. I don't know if that's true. I was listening to part of a TED Talk once where a guy was talking about stuff that was way beyond my IQ, and it's like, well, that sounds interesting. Hope that works out. Whatever the hell you're talking about is. But someone told me that, or the guy's thing was like, really the thrust behind artificial diamonds is for use in high power computing.
yeah. You see Elon Musk's new stainless steel rocket?
No. What's this now?
It's just a rocket, but it's made out of stainless steel rather than like carbon material.
Oh, okay.
Which I'm not sure about the weight of it, like how they're overcoming that, but basically like stainless steel is cheaper, but also the characteristics of it is that once you get like in like like 0 Kelvin temperatures, like space temperatures, like stainless steel doesn't have a problem with that. Like it doesn't flux at like really low temperatures or whatever. So
Oh, okay.
so that's why it was ideal to make a stainless steel spaceship.
Are these the reusable ones?
I believe so. I think this one's supposed to be actually put people into space. So
Oh, okay. Well, the Russians can tell you how to. You could make a rocket out of cast iron. Like, we can build an engine big enough to do that.
But I don't think they've launched it yet. They've just built the thing. It looks like some like broke ass 1950s sci-fi movie shit like that. It's really
Retro 50s.
yeah. It's just a big. I mean, it looks like a fucking like.
Let me look at this thing.
I mean, it practically just looks like you took like what are those like those towers you put like corn in, like what do you call those?
Oh, corn silos?
Yeah, it just looks like a fucking corn silo with some fins on it.
Holy shit, it does. Wow. That looks very, very 60s, 50s and 60s. It's weird. Stainless steel rockets. Rockets to the underworld. I told you, everyone's going back. Like the Russians were trying to develop their very own Pluto rocket.
Yeah.
That's why all those people died. Remember those 5 Russian nuclear scientists got killed?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, this is all postulation. They're not coming out and saying. But it's like, how did 5 people die in a reactor accident nowadays? It's like, oh, well, they're trying to miniaturize it and doing tests on it, and they got caught, it energized too quickly, and I mean, they can only speculate what they're doing, but yeah, they're trying to make a Pluto rocket for the modern times. And we are too, if we're being honest. Ultimate standoff weapon.
So yeah, I saw more wrestling this week.
Okay.
The second most important week of wrestling in history.
You can tell.
So all the ratings went down, so that's, not great, but, you can expect that. People aren't going to change their lives to watch wrestling. So,
Yeah. It's not that important,
AEW still had like 1.1 million, down from 1.4. They still held advantage over NXT with the key demographic. It was a better show than last week's episode. So that was, man, they had so much crazy shit going on. It was a really good episode. So, and I'm really excited. And also this week they have their YouTube channel, AEW Dark, where they show the dark matches that they had on the night.
That's just a cool marketing name.
Although it sounds like there's something seedy's going on, but no, it's here.
Sinister.
No, it's just another wrestling match.
EW After Hours.
It was okay. There was a Darby Allin versus SEMA match that was really cool. There was the women's tag match which was all right, but the crowd was kind of dead for it. And then there was the Jurassic Express versus SCU, which was pretty much the same match they did at All Out. So it was it was still entertaining the crowd, but like I kind of saw it before. But I'm really excited this week because I heard like the best match that they had this episode like wasn't even on TV.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's Joey Janela versus Kenny Omega in a like unsanctioned match, and I have no idea what's going on. And I'm like trying to keep away from spoilers because usually when it's an unsanctioned match, that means like they bring out like all the weapons and tacks and there's lots of blood. And Kenny Kenny Omega's like known for doing like artful wrestling, like strategic storytelling wrestling. He's not known for doing death matches, so I'm like that seems like kind of like what they're doing with his character because they started up AEW and I think he's won like one match, and it's like the whole thing is like this guy's supposed to be the best in the world, but he's like now he's lost, he's broken. Is now the new way to say like when a really good wrestler's on a losing streak, it's broken, whatever their name is.
Okay.
So it's broken Kenny Omega, and now he's being all weird and shit and coming out with like barbed wire brooms and baseball bats and challenging people to matches. But yeah, the AEW show was really great. The tag match that opened up was like really, really awesome. This one guy did a shooting star press, and it looked like he jumped 9 feet in the air. Like he did the thing, and like he started to like hit the top where the camera was pointing, like he could like essentially jumped out of frame.
Wow.
Yeah. And then like Chris Jericho did a really cool promo. Shows the power of like when you just let people go off the cuff rather than just read from a script. What else happened? Oh yeah, and then just like the last 5 minutes was just a bunch of just crazy nonsense. Because last week, they call it a run-in. Basically, like a match happens, and then like at the end, like a bunch of people run in to beat up whichever person, and then like other people will come in to like stop them, and it just ends up being a big brawl. So like last week, like all the heels jumped in and beat up people, and then like they stood tall at the end of the episode. So then like a similar thing happened this week, but then like all the good guys like came in to like back up their friends and everything like that, and then like at the very end, there's a guy. He's a skateboarder. But he's like transitioned to wrestling because skateboarding's too dangerous. So, but he does a bunch of shit with skateboards, and so when Chris Jericho is like going up the ramp, he skateboards down the ramp and knees him in the face.
Cool.
Which, like, that just came out of nowhere. It's like, was not expecting that. It was just really fun. NXT was also, like, still great, but it just kind of doesn't get... You have to compare, and it doesn't really compare. Once again, they probably technically put on the best wrestling show, but it wasn't the more exciting show.
Okay.
And then you have a newcomer this week also, as NWA Power premiered on YouTube.
Okay. Is that an internet only thing?
Yes. But the NWA is like a historic wrestling promotion.
Okay.
Like at one time, I think in the late 70s, it was the biggest wrestling promotion in the world.
Oh, okay.
This is back in the territory days, but like they like owned a large part of the southern territory. Like they basically, like, from Texas to Florida, they pretty much owned wrestling. I think that's how it worked. But anyway, so they went defunct a while ago, and so Billy Corgan of Smashing Pumpkins fame bought NWA like 3 years ago.
I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, he's like a big wrestling fan.
Okay. Yeah, I can see that.
And so they put together like this. It's also this year there was an old wrestling thing called the Crockett Cup, and it was mostly known for its tag team tournament. And they put that out as a pay-per-view this year, and it was like really cool. They did it with Ring of Honor, and it had like old school like 70s, like think of like early Monday Night Football, like it's that kind of graphics, like that's the way they made it look.
Yeah.
And like, you know, and like really just like, you know, bare bones like titling treatment and like font treatment. Like it's just like, you know, they don't have a whole Adobe suite to pick from. It's just like really, it just so it looks like it came out of the 70s. Like they didn't have like a big screen to show what's going on, but they did have like giant 40-foot banners of the guys that were in the main event that just like loomed over the ring.
Okay.
I guess that was something they got from it was either Rocky or Karate Kid. They kind of mixed together like some of this stuff. Rocky, Karate Kid, and like 70s wrestling. That's what the Crockett Cup was.
They're definitely going for a retro vibe. Huh?
Yeah. So this time they did kind of a similar thing, except this is kind of bringing back old studio wrestling. Like this is literally done in a PBS studio.
Okay.
So it's a smaller ring set in front of like a bleacher of fans, just one side bleacher. And then like there's no like big entrances or something like that. There's like the commentator desk, and then there's like an interview desk. So the like wrestlers will just like walk out from like behind a curtain, go up to the interview desk, and then just like cut a promo, and then walk to the ring, which is like 5 feet away in front of the audience.
Okay.
So if you ever see like really old school wrestling, like that's like how it was done. So they're doing like pretty much the exact same thing, and not really, you know, with modern technology, but like intentionally trying to make it look old. So, yeah, I wouldn't say the wrestling's great, but like everything else around it's pretty neat. So,
Yeah, it's kind of a cool aesthetic.
yeah, and it's you can watch it for free on the NWA YouTube channel. But I don't think it's meant like this is meant to be essentially a pitch for someone to buy for a television buy, because like I think at some point Billy Corgan said this isn't like no matter how well they do, this is not like financially sustainable for the future. So this is more of a we're trying to get a television deal. Because also, so NWA used to like pair together with Ring of Honor to do a lot of shows. And recently they kind of had separated from Ring of Honor, so they're kind of on their own.
Oh, okay.
So this is kind of like their big stab at the future for NWA. More, huh?
Indie wrestling, huh?
Yeah. Well, like one of the cool things about NWA is they have the world's champion, the world's championship, their title belt. Its nickname is the 10 pounds of gold, and it's the same belt. I think the belt's like 50 years old, and it's the same belt throughout all of time. It's the same belt.
Okay.
And it's like,
Cool.
yeah, it's really neat. I mean, they probably like repaired it over the years, and maybe like, you know, the ship of Theseus world's belt, but you know,
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like it has a really like long history to it. So, and then what else? Oh yeah, and then Hell in the Cell happened.
Okay.
So you had the, so I've been showing you guys like all the stuff about the Fiend and like how I thought that was kind of neat and like I
Yeah.
thought you guys would like it because it's weird and different. Well, they fucked that up. So, so you had Bray Wyatt versus Seth Rollins in the Hell in the Cell match. Seth Rollins, like, and Hell in a Cell matches, like, basically you can do anything inside of it. Like, they have all these, tables, ladders, and chairs, and sledgehammers, and all this stuff. And at some point, like, Seth Rollins knocked down the Fiend, and he just started building this pyramid. He, like, laid a ladder on the guy's head, and then put a chair on it, and then a toolbox, and then he pulled out a sledgehammer, and then the ref tried to stop him from, like, hitting him, and then, like, he hit the whole contraption to shit with the sledgehammer, and then the ref like called a disqualification and essentially a no disqualification match.
Okay.
So that was really, really fucking stupid. Well, I was working late on Sunday, and then I got home and I flipped it on. I was like, oh, see what happened, and like it's like the last 5 minutes of the pay-per-view, and all I hear is a chorus of boos. I'm like, oh god, how did they fuck this up? So I went back and watched that. It's like, yeah, that's not good. That's really fucking dumb.
Yeah, because you had some momentum behind that.
Oh yeah, that's dead now. No reason to worry about that. And I went back and watched some of the other matches, and like the women's Hell in the Cell match was far better, and really had some neat shit too. This is the part where it was Becky Lynch versus Sasha Banks. Sasha Banks is the cousin of Snoop Dogg.
Okay, that's weird. Didn't know that.
There's a part where Becky Lynch took some kendo sticks and like went to the corner of the cage and kind of like stuck them from like in the corner of it, so they were bridging across the corner.
Yeah.
And then she put a chair on top of that, and then she like threw Sasha Banks on top of that chair, and then she got on top of the ring and like did a running jump kick and kicked her off the chair that was like suspended in the middle of the cage corner.
Wow.
I was like, that's pretty inventive. That's kind of like that.
Yeah, that sounds pretty cool.
But I was still bummed out about how they did the Fiend dirty, and then like around midnight, I get PayPal message and like, oh, you've been charged $9.99 for WWE Network, and I was like, well, time to cancel that.
Yeah. That'll be the last time.
Well, no, I'll probably sign up again when the Royal Rumble comes around. But yeah, that just like really pissed me off and reminded me, oh yeah, they do these terrible things all the time because it's Vince McMahon.
Yeah. They have to do these kind of cocaine fueled ideas.
Well, apparently I heard, well, not reports, but maybe rumors would probably better say that like Vince McMahon like was laughing when everyone was booing about this decision, like
Okay.
So it's, yeah.
That's interesting.
Although they must have got a bunch of backlash because the next night on Raw, they did not have The Fiend nor Seth Rollins show up because they knew that people would boo. But yeah, because now that NXT is on USA, like I can watch replays on the USA internet, .com or whatever.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much the only reason I have the WWE Network is to watch NXT. So I'm like, yeah, I'm not gonna do it. Because also at the end of this month you have the whole Saudi Arabia show, which has its own problems. And then next month is Survivor Series, and like I've never seen a good Survivor Series, so it's like, well, fuck that. And then December is gonna be whatever, and so but that'll probably jump back in when it comes Royal Rumble time. So.
Yeah.
Unless AEW is just like, filling the void. Actually, there's really no void. It's like fucking.
Yeah, there seems to be a continuous round of this.
Yeah, there's too much wrestling right now, so might as well get rid of WWE because that's the worst wrestling. Uh, yeah, I think so. Yeah, I mean, I have other bullshit.
Rounded out wrestling.
Oh, I mean, I have tons. I was gonna do a little thing about the end of the G1 climax, but I think that's too far over with. Like, I'd have to like re-explain every person because you're not gonna know one fucking person.
Yeah.
And then, well, the really interesting thing about that is basically how everybody who was in the tournament was made better for it. Like, even if they like lost the majority of their matches, like something they came out of the G1 climax having something about them that was like elevated because of that, which that's something that's like WWE would never do.
Oh, okay.
And even if they tried to do it, it would never work. Because that's what WWE like AEW this week. They did a good things where like the people who lost the matches, like they look good in defeat,
Yeah.
which is something WWE does terribly. Like if somebody loses a match, like it's like that's the end of them. Like if they lose one match, that's the end of their character essentially. That's how WWE thinks. Like nobody could have like, oh, he fought him close, and if he just had this one more advantage, or you know his leg gave out at the last moment, he just like anybody could get caught. But like no, WWE's like, oh, he beat him. It's like, oh, he beat him forever. Then it's like, let's never have this feud. Oh,
Yeah, that's seems like a weird thing to do to develop somebody and then just they lost one match, fuck them. But isn't that a financial thing with them too,
what's that?
where they just don't want people to? They want to pay people. They'll let some guys slip through and get really popular. But
Oh no, now they have to pay people
oh, that's right.
because there's too much competition. Now they're just buying up people to make sure that the competition doesn't have people.
Oh, okay.
So everybody's sitting pretty right now. Everybody who's a wrestler is making more money than they ever have before, just because of AEW.
Oh, okay.
But,
Well, good. Glad those guys deserve it.
yeah.
I don't begrudge them their paychecks. Take note, internet.
But yeah. Oh. Yeah, wrestling. It's pretty exciting. There's too much of it. So invest in AEW and NXT and don't watch WWE.
Do it.
I mean, I hate to kind of like abandon Bray Wyatt and the whole Fiend gimmick, but like now I just have no expectation that it'll be good. And plus, I have wrestling podcasts I listen to, so I'll just let that fill the void. Like, I'll let them tell me when it's good to get.
Yeah. I usually defer to the experts. Let's see. I saw some new, interesting new model this week. Looking at just the world of 1/16 scale armor, which is like
Wait, just like tanks or?
yeah,
Okay.
1/16 scale tanks, which are like about as big as a shoe. And they're huge and expensive. But I didn't realize there's actually there's one company, Trumpeter of China, that makes a lot of them, and then you have to buy all the correction kits to
A correction kit? What's that?
Oh yeah, when you get a model and then you've got like to get the correct sprockets, the correct this, the get the what's the other thing? You either get the photo etch or the resin.
Is this like official or unofficial?
Unofficial.
Oh, okay.
It's just people that are like really experts in this. Like, that's totally the wrong sprocket design.
Oh,
so
it's like this is a good base, but all these details are wrong, so we're gonna correct the details.
what I like to jokingly call going $500 deep in a model. You got it. You win the first prize. But yeah, they had one in the store. So because like, oh, let me look at this thing. It's like, oh my God, this would be like, well, it's a $320 model. And then, even without the correction kits, you're looking at $200 worth of paint. The cool thing is you can make them look really good because you can capture, because they're inside-outside models.
Yeah.
So you can do like all the interior detail, where all the shells are stored and all the hydraulics and everything. Like you can go deep on that and it'll be really cool. But, it's just, I've never seen them because I did I'm still working on the B-24. Everyone asked me about that. I was like, is that done yet? I was like, no, I gotta wait till it cools off, and I gotta put that together in the garage because I need a lot of space. I can't do it in my room. Plus, I gotta do paint reshoots, so I'm just waiting. But yeah, I saw a 1/16 scale tank in a box, and it's like, oh, that's nuts.
How big's the box?
Oh, it's like this. It's well, as big as this Liberator, because this is a 32 scale, bomber from World War II. So this box is like 1.5 years like this big. Yeah, it's a two-hander. Carry it out.
Is it basically like the size of like a remote control car, or is it like bigger than that?
The tanks would be probably bigger
Okay.
because because they're doing. This is the era of super detail, where they can CAD design a lot of models and look at the old blueprints, and they can do stuff with molding now which you couldn't do before, and because they used to do like cutaway stuff where it would be molded and a section would be missing, and but now they're doing like where you actually can open the hatch and take the turret off and see all that interior detail. So that has to be almost complete
Yeah.
in how it's done instead of being partially done. So, but yeah, it's probably not something I'm going to dive into right away. Maybe I'm still working on my keep diorama. So.
Have you built a battleship yet? I can't remember if you got one.
No, I haven't. I did. The Yamato. I did the one you gave me.
Okay.
Battleship Yamato.
Or like, or do you have like an aircraft carrier? I can't remember.
No.
Do you have? Okay.
I don't do a lot of. I mostly do. I've been doing a lot of armor. There's a lot of sci-fi, and then my Apocalypse series, but now I'm just doing armor. And
Okay.
A lot of World War II stuff because there's just such an abundance of things you can do from World War II. There's like different versions of everything. So yeah, no, I haven't done a lot of naval stuff. That's like a whole different. Everything's different, like planes and military stuff and planes between planes and vehicles. Like that's different, but close enough. But when you get into like naval stuff, like that's a whole different paint scheme. That's jigs to hold these things together. It's if you want to do it right, and it's not something that's really ever wildly interested me. I mean, it's kind of cool, but they're all big. They're all just huge.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Well, I was trying to think like what was the biggest model you have, and I was.
Biggest model I have, well, probably would be this Liberator when I'm done. The Millennium Falcon's a close second.
Oh yeah, right, yeah.
Vince, that's just a heavy model as well as being big.
How big was it? The Klingon Katanga? Is that what?
That one's pretty big. It's what is that? 35 scale.
Okay.
I don't remember.
Oh man, how big's the fucking 2001 Space Odyssey ship?
It's really long,
Yeah.
but it's not like it's like 3 feet long.
Okay. But it's a tube. So yeah.
Yeah, it's basically a modular section with a ball on one end and an engine room on the other. And they come out with like additions to that, and like they did the the little pods they go outside of it in. They came out with one of those in like big scale. It was like this. It was like $400, but it was super detailed. Like it was amazing looking. Didn't buy it, but.
Is there going to be anything for Alien, like a 40th anniversary Alien
I don't
thing coming up?
That's one of those weird things where the rights are fucking screwed up. So like in
that's just Disney, right?
Well, because there was never the only model. I'm trying to think of what Alien and Aliens universe models. They had a lot of like you buy little die-cast things. But as far as ships you build, there was a Nostromo model, and it was made by Halcyon, but it was made out of like the same vinyl that you make records out of, because you could get a lot more surface detail at that time. Because the Nostromo was just all bumps and blocks and things all glued on there. but those are like super rare, like $400 if you can find them on eBay, and it's not really a great kit. And then you can buy resin garage kits that are even worse, and they're solid resin, so they weigh like 50 pounds. So I hope some stuff comes out.
What is the only bootleg kit that you've been closest to actually getting?
I don't.
Because you haven't bought a bootleg kit, have you?
No, I bought components. I bought resin components for stuff, that like dress up stuff. But no, I've never bought like a full on bootleg, because you hear such horror stories.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, good luck getting your money back. But there's
Because like one time I was getting deep into models, or like anticipating like, like, hey, I'm gonna get into this, but I just didn't. And like it got into like Star Wars like bootleg models. Like you can get like Super Star Destroyer resin kits that are like $600, but they're like, 5 feet long and super detailed. But like, what's the problem with resin? It's like it just doesn't fit right if like after traveling or some shit like that. Or,
well, there's yeah, with
and
resin,
it's really heavy.
resin's heavy. There's a lot of mold deflection in it because it's not cast hot where it takes shape. It's usually in a silicone mold, and it depends on how. Again, the silicone molds wear out, so depending on how many times you run something through it before you make a new master mold, you can get wonkiness in detail, and also resin is just brittle. It's not like styrene is flexible. You can shape it, you can cut it, because it's basically styrofoam.
Yeah.
But resin is, because I was shaping up some parts. I think it was for some science fiction thing. But yeah, I was using a file. Nice thing about resin, you can paint it with anything. You won't melt it. But I was using a file on something. And I had to drill a hole with a hand drill in the back of it so it would mate up properly. And I was drilling this hole and cracked like the whole top of it, like split. And I just got super glue and glued it back together. But I could never, so I had to chop the thing off, make my own lug out of something else, and then fit it in. And it's like, yeah, these things look cool, but boy, they're extra stepping me to death because this stuff is kind of brittle. It's getting better. Now, there's companies that make, like that stuff that Adam Savage did with like the people that make the, what is it, Ars Technica, or now those are all like resin, but they're like super detail resin. But those are like $500 kits too.
Yeah.
But those you can make look like something out of a movie, especially if you're Adam Savage and you're that good.
But no, what's the one you're like almost pulled the trigger on?
The USS Constellation, the USS, the Stargazer, the one that Picard had.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I almost bought a big $180 resin kit of that, because it was multi-piece. I mean, everything was like, it was like perfect. They had pictures of it raw. They had pictures of it done. People were really had good things to say about it. It's like, this is a good looking kit, if you're really into Star Trek lore. But then that wasn't. Once they launched Discovery and their network, they really started going after everyone pretty hard about, your own homebrew Star Trek stuff. And
Yeah.
so a lot of those sites have just disappeared. Because bootleg Star Trek was huge. Like, it's like there were guys that will make any ship you can imagine.
Yeah.
But yeah, that kind of faded away because it just couldn't.
Yeah, there's like kind of weird like community stuff that is allowable through Star Trek, but maybe they cracked down. But yeah, there's like people have built like perfect recreations of like the next gen bridge and like make their own next gen TV shows.
Yeah.
I think as long as they don't monetize it, like Paramount won't sue you, but I'm not sure how it is nowadays.
Yeah, there were guys that were doing like the original series stuff. And there were a bunch of like software engineers from California, and this was their weekend activity.
Yeah.
They were making better looking Star Trek than the original series looked. And they were always telling their fans like, we're not making money off this. They were very clear. but they said, you know, if you want to send us something, like they always wanted like Home Depot gift cards to build props and
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
So it was always stuff like, you could participate and support us that way. We can't make money off this. We don't have the rights to this shit. And I used to watch some of those because, I mean, there was never like great acting there, but some of it was done with such sincerity and
Yeah,
intent.
yeah.
It's like, oh, I like these guys. I just like their love of this show. But yeah, a lot of that stuff just vaporized, and I don't know how much of that's YouTube and how much of that's Paramount. And, but
Well, and there's the division between Paramount and CBS because like
Yeah,
CBS owns rights to like the television Star Trek, and Paramount's like movie Star Trek,
yeah, and that stuff can't look alike.
and I don't know what happens in regards of like, you know, rides or Star Trek experience stuff. Like I'm not sure that stuff's still around. I know they used to have it in, like Las Vegas. There was like the Star Trek experience, but
Yeah, I always wanted to go, but just never got around to it. I don't know, but yeah, I don't know about the rights to all that stuff, and I mean, it's just as far as I'm waiting to see what this Picard thing is going to be, but yeah, I think all the sci-fi of our childhood is going to slowly die because they've already tried to bring it back. I mean, that's what they're doing, and they just keep failing. Star Wars isn't great, but it's better than
it's entertaining at least.
it's like, yeah, I guess. But Star Trek is, you know, that was always my favorite science fiction franchise. Well, that and Doctor Who. But yeah, Star Trek was always my go-to. Like, I'll invest time and money into Star Trek, whereas I won't invest that into much else unless something cool comes along. But yeah, I'm kind of, that Discovery season 2 I was pretty disenchanted with. Because usually I, you know, sometimes I'll watch stuff like, oh, I know I'm not going to get, very rarely do I feel like I'll never get those 2 hours of my life back with something that's like a name franchise like that. It's like, well, I might not like everything about it, but this will be good. And it's like, yeah, season 2 of that Discovery was such a mixed bag of like, okay, I like the Pike character, sort of like the Spock character. Burnham's always consistent. I sort of enjoy her just for her, like, but then it became, I mean, we've already talked about this before, but it's like, yeah, I don't know what the fuck they're doing. And I don't know why they think that that's what anyone would want. Like, I understand you got to, like, create your narrative and tell your story, but you just can't stumble the entire season. And
It's very WWE of them.
Yeah.
We need new viewers, so fuck the fans. Oh, we didn't appeal to new viewers, and also we pissed off the fans.
Yeah, what's
Good job.
The famous Ryan Johnson about subverting expectations. It's like, no, you're just pissing me off. I do have expectations, but yeah, but that's Star Wars, which is like, again, I've never gone too deep into Star Wars. It's like, yeah, this is cool, visually appealing, but yeah.
Well, like, I don't know, like, I guess Star Trek has a higher, like, expectation of, like, to make sense.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, Star Wars doesn't have to make sense. It just
No.
has to be fun. Star Trek has to make some sort of fucking sense.
Yeah, Star Wars can rely on the carnival ride type fair atmosphere of it all. It's like, oh, and maybe we can wedge a story in there. Whereas, yes, Star Trek, you like them to.
Well, it's like
thoughtful things.
I don't know, it's like it was like the weird, like something we were talking about the other day, where it's like we like world building, but sometimes this, you know, we find something like, oh, this is a cool world, but like a good story wasn't told inside of it, but we're so enthralled with the world, we're like fine with what happened.
Yeah.
And then like, so you got something like Star Wars where you can just like, you can throw anything in there, and at the end of the day, you don't have to analyze it and make sense. But like Star Trek, at the end of the day, like, is meant to be analyzed and be thoughtful. Like, something has to like go from A to B, and there has to be like steps in between.
Look, the cool thing about like the original series and the Next Generation, which are the high watermarks for Star Trek. I mean, all the other stuff is good too.
But Deep Space Nine is probably the high watermark.
Well, not for what I like though, because what Star Trek always was to me was like crazy space adventure, but we really care about the characters and the relationship these characters have and how that matters, as the show goes on. That, especially with the Next Generation, you really like kind of bought into like, oh, I know who Data is, and Picard and Riker, and they all have their own individual things, and the storytelling was kind of changing through the Next Generation because they were still very much in the genre of, okay, everything that happened this episode, there's a firewall between this and the next one, and that's what made Deep Space Nine unique, was the continuous story.
Yeah.
But I don't think I like bought into the Cisco character as much as because I like the Picard character a lot.
Yeah.
Because he's this smart guy who's very emotionally stunted for a lot of reasons, but he kind of overcomes that with just intelligence and integrity. But he's not really like your best friend. but you want.
But he has real like high hopes for other people.
Yeah.
Like he wants to do everything that he wants to give everyone a chance to be the best person they can be.
Yeah.
But also at some point, like he has to like call people on their shit and things have to get done.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why I like the most about the Picard character is that like he's not.
Is that what you're looking forward to in the show? Like they hope they.
I mean,
Are you not looking forward to the show? It's just
I want to believe
X-Files.
Yeah, I want to believe that something good is going to happen.
But have you seen the Comic-Con trailer?
Yes, I've seen all the latest trailers.
I don't think they really add anything, but it's just kind of like, other than like, oh yeah, like he's really old. Patrick Stewart's really old.
Yeah, Jonathan Frakes is old, and Data's old, and yeah, but of course they are. The show was on TV 20 some years ago. I mean, these guys they're not porcelain dolls.
Yeah, no, I don't expect that. It's just it's like this one. It did more like grumpy, like Picard stuff that I wasn't expecting.
Yeah, well, that's what a lot of even the people who have talked about the show and have said it's they kind of strayed away from using the term undermine your expectations. But it's not going to be, and they did clearly say like this isn't going to be the Picard of optimism and like, oh, and he sailed off into the sunset and he did a lot of good things, and no, this is a guy who's kind of angry with how his life turned out, and he just wants to keep away from everyone, and then he has literally this, because the guy, he's 79 years old, the actor is,
Yeah.
and it's like, yeah, this is going to be the last go around for Picard, and like maybe things in the Star Trek universe, not everyone ended up happy and high like you thought.
I'm also like vaguely interested in the whole 7 of 9 thing, just because like she seems to have like lost all. It's like all her Borg emotional stunting seems to be like completely gone away, which that seems interesting.
Yeah.
Or a bad, it's like, yeah, I'm not gonna act like I don't have emotions anymore. So it's like, oh, so you're not gonna be your character anymore? But maybe there's a point to that. I don't know.
Well, yeah, I mean, it looks like, and again, we're just watching previews.
Yeah.
But it looks like she's replaced some of that automaton stuff with a cynicism and a sarcasm. Like maybe this whole being entirely human thing kind of fucking sucks, Yay, we made it back from the Delta Quadrant, and I get back on Earth, and I'm just kind of this weirdo. I don't have a family anymore, and so it could be something like
large
that.
swaths of the company or of Earth secretly hate me because so many people died from the Borg.
Yeah, like the biggest war the Federation's been in since like the Klingon Wars, and I think more people died as a result of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so she could be like just a cynical, angry person who's like, "Well, this sucks. I went from one shitty thing to another." I don't know. Again, we're just guessing.
Yeah.
Just casting into the dark. We'll see what happens. Definitely watch it, but I'm not. The only reason I watched the whole season of Discovery season 2 was because I was on summer shutdown. I was like, well, I might as well have this playing in the background. And I even, at one point, was like, okay. Anyway, we watched a movie this week.
In the theaters.
In the theater. This is our theater movie. We watched the Joker, the Joaquin Phoenix, which is another one of those weirdly divisive, unnecessarily, what do they call that? Like, it's just some kind of social drumbeat that really, when you watch the movie, it's like, okay, but
Well, no, it's the media made a lot of things about this movie
Yeah.
that really wasn't, because they're trying to read the tea leaves and this is going to inspire people. This is the incel massacre movie that lonely people have been waiting for. It's like, no.
no, it's not. But I mean, it could be. You're crazy, but like again, if you're crazy and you got problems, this movie isn't gonna cause those problems. It might amplify them if you're nuts, because you can't tell crazy people, hey, don't do crazy shit. Was that easy? Crazy people. But yeah, so it was. Me and my son watched it, and it was. I guess the things I like about the movie is the look.
Well, yeah. But
Like
there's really just one thing about this movie, and that's Joaquin Phoenix's performance.
Well, yeah, I was going to get to that.
This
That's
movie
the
is
thing.
far elevated by his performance than probably the material demanded, or he elevates the material like far above than what it actually was.
Well, yeah, it's a bare bones story.
No, well, because like like probably like the first hour of the movie, like I was enraptured by his performance, but I didn't want to watch the movie anymore because it's just a relentlessly dark movie.
Yeah.
Like nothing good happens. Nobody's a good person.
Yeah. It's New York in the 1980s.
Yeah, I mean it is kind of like it sort of reminded me. What was that movie with who Michael Keaton, where he was in drug rehab?
Oh, Clean and Sober.
Yeah.
Another one of my favorite movies.
Wasn't there something in that movie where like basically like all the social like stuff gets defunded and like was there a thing about that in the movie, or is that just kind of
No.
on the cusp?
I mean, it was understood to be out there, but I don't know. I mean, his girlfriend was a steel worker, and that was before that all went away, which was like in the late 80s, early 90s. So, but yeah,
But like a crux of this movie is essentially like all social services, because Ronald Reagan is elected, like all that, all social services get cut, and this person who, should be in a mental institution, is allowed to live, with his mother, who should also be in mental institution, and they're basically trying to raise and keep each other alive, and are doing both poorly. But because they really have no help, and the help that's there is either can't help them really, or is too
indifferent.
disenfranchised to really like engage with it at all, because like none of this is going to end well, so I'm just gonna clock in and clock out each day.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
um,
Yeah, I for one am a fan of the look, the unrelenting bleakness of the movie. But see, that's what I expected.
yeah, I mean, this is very, very Taxi Driver.
Yeah, oh yeah. This is just a love letter to Martin Scorsese's gritty New York.
Now,
film.
I was trying to I'm not sure if this is a connection or not, but isn't that the end of Taxi Driver? Not the very end, but like after he like shoots up the whorehouse or whatever,
Yeah.
and like and he's like shot up. Don't like the cops come in and he's like making finger guns to his head, like pretending to blow his brains out. Isn't that the end of Taxi Driver, or like the penultimate end of Taxi Driver?
I think you might be right, but I don't know for sure.
Which that's a thing in this movie. I was like, oh, we're just the whole finger guns to the head.
Yeah, this movie again is exactly as somebody described it, is a love letter to Taxi Driver, king of comedy.
No,
And
I haven't seen King of Comedy. How much of it does it come close to King of Comedy?
real close,
Real close? Okay.
real on the nose. The look, the feel, the kind of manic energy of the character. Now, in that movie, the guy's the Robert De Niro character in King of Comedy is more pathetic and dangerous, whereas this guy's obviously like, oh, this guy's deeply mentally ill.
Yeah.
So that was yeah, it's and I also see elements of Mean Streets in this, just with like just people randomly being cruel, and like whenever he's walking into his apartment, people are screaming at each other. The whole clown funny man union that he's part of,
Yeah.
where those people are just, except for the little person, the rest of them are they're just evil, fucking with this guy who obviously is, got problems.
Yeah.
And then, the end of the movie is kind of a rant about society,
Or not.
or yeah,
Because, like, the whole thing is, like, so he ends up, like, killing these 3 Wall Street guys.
yeah,
2 out of self-defense. 1, he kind of tracked him down and shot him as he was trying to get away. So that's murder. But the first 2, that was self-defense.
yeah,
And then that gets turned into like a class like warfare kind of like rallying cry, which he had no intention of doing whatsoever.
right,
I also like that they make Thomas Wayne a fucking dick.
yeah, which is kind of a unique. You never have that perspective.
No, because like in Batman's Begins, they always talk about like Batman's parents as being like these philanthropists that were like trying to save the city, but there was a secret evil organization that was keeping it from happening. Where here it's just like, no, he's a rich dickhead who's like seeing as this city falling apart as an opportunity to like increase his cultural cachet and run for mayor.
Yeah, which is a weird analogy to. There's a lot of weird analogs to Trump in this movie.
Yeah. I mean, it's 80s, so.
Yeah, but I don't know if you notice, like the Wall Street guys, like 2 of those guys look like Trump's sons.
Yeah.
With the slick back hair and the suit. It's like, oh, these. Which one of them's named what? One of them's Donald. One of them's the other one.
It's Trump Jr. or whatever.
Yeah, and I read that somewhere. Somebody said that once, and I was in the theater, and I was like, fuck, they're right. These guys do look like these 2 guys, but yeah, which that's fine, whatever. Do whatever you want.
Well, yeah, I think a lot of this movie, it's like you can read it or not. It doesn't really matter. I don't think a lot of it was intended to be read into, but like maybe afterwards they're like, oh, it means this. Like, I don't think it was intended, but you can pull what you want out of this. Like, I think it's vague enough with a good performance that you can make it as good or bad as you want it to be.
Yeah, this again, it's like you said, it's a vehicle for Joaquin Phoenix primarily. That's what carries the film. I do like the look of the film.
Yeah,
I thought that was great. I wasn't expecting that. I mean, from the the trailers. Here's the thing, the one disconnect I had with this movie is like the trailers make it look really tight and well put together. It's like, oh, this is going to be a story. We're gonna be in focus on this guy. We're gonna see how this develops into a bigger thing. But the actual movie itself is kind of sloppy.
Yeah.
It's incidental almost to.
Well, there's some stuff early on where like the Red Letter Media guys were kind of like trying to like kick this around as they immediately show you his delusion. Like,
Yeah.
oh, like, what's reality and what's not. They immediately show you that what you're seeing could not be reality.
Yeah.
And there's that part where, like, with his, the neighbor or the girlfriend or whatever, where at no point did I ever believe that was actually happening.
Yeah, she seemed a little too hot to be into this guy.
Yeah, like, oh, you're following me around? That's so cute. Like, nobody would fucking say that. Not even in the 80s.
Stalking me.
And so, like, if they didn't, like, because, like, there's no, like, visual cue that we're in delusional territory. It all looks the same.
Yeah.
So, like, that was a good thing because, like, the delusion is hidden. Like, you don't know what's real and what's not. But, like, they give you that touchstone early on so you know to, like, look for something being unreal. And so if they would have revealed that later, that would have been more impactful, I guess.
Yeah.
But then I don't know. Yeah, you get to the end of the movie and it's like, was any of it real?
Yeah, that was sort of frustrating to me.
But I don't know. But
That wasn't my favorite part of the movie. Was the unreliable narrator can be cool or it can be unreliable.
But also, this is a one-off movie. They will not be doing sequels to this movie.
No. Well, maybe. I don't know.
Maybe in the comic books, like I could see them doing that, like extending this universe in the comic books.
Well, the thing is, this guy's not ultimately a supervillain.
No.
He's an incidental victim who, through a series of strange occurrences, is able to just live out his madness in full roar. It's not like cunning.
No.
But it's just, I don't know. It was interesting. I liked it. I don't think it's as deep or as scary as a lot of people have tried to make it out to be.
No.
It's a great looking movie. God, I love that look. Wish it had a little bit better story. Joaquin Phoenix did a great job.
It is just like, it's so amazing that this one character has generated so many Oscar-worthy performances.
Oh yeah, basically a guy who's insane. Like he's almost in this movie. He's a very pathetic character.
Yeah.
But this is essentially a guy who just can't function.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, like with America, because we ignore this problem entirely unless it's entertaining, and then it's like, oh, let's watch the. Well, you have this like places like Los Angeles are just overrun with people. Like they're just. Great.
Did you see that Red Letter Media review of Fanatic?
No.
It's that Fred Durst directed and John Travolta movie where he's like an obsessed fan. And
when did this come out?
It came out this year. It's supposed to be terrible, but like they watched it and they actually like found like good things about the movie. Like they didn't just automatically dismiss it. It's like, no, this movie's good because they did some good things, but it was just like executed poorly.
Okay.
You'll have to watch it. It's really fascinating because it has like 2% on Rotten Tomatoes, but like, and then like a lot of their fans told them like, hate it or watch this, you'll hate it. We want to see you hate it, and then they watched it and it's like, no, it's like Fred Durst isn't a terrible director, but there's some misgivings with the story. And then Mike really loved the performance of John Travolta, like unironically, even though if you just like took clips from this movie, he looks like he's doing a really bad job.
I'm gonna have to watch tomorrow. Okay, I'm gonna make Sunday my Red Letter Media catch up because I haven't watched them in a while. Have they? So they talked about the Joker too.
Yeah.
Oh, did they like it?
Yeah, they like said like it's a performance that elevates the material that's not that they found poor.
Oh, okay.
or not necessarily poor, but like derivative. Like there's nothing new here, but like the performance is great. Because they don't really like Todd Phillips whatsoever, so they don't want to attribute like like artistic talents to this movie based on Todd Phillips directing it. So.
Well, if I was directing a movie, I want the director of photography for this movie just to do all my movies, even if they're supposed to be happy. So anyway, that's the Joker. Watch it. I have a teenage son and a house full of guns. I don't think he's going to go shoot up the school. Pretty sure he's not. So it's safe. You can watch it. Unless you're crazy. Then in which case this will set you off, or a Twinkie on a sidewalk will set you off. Equal chance either way. But yeah, they were issuing warnings here about.
Oh yeah, like at the movie theater, it said like, this is not a joke. No costumes will be allowed at the a showing of the Joker.
Oh.
Which I don't know. I guess that's a bummer. I don't know. Then the Red Letter Media guys talk about remember all the talk about the Batman Rising and how that guy shot up the theater like dressed as a Joker, but I guess he wasn't dressed like a Joker. He just had red hair dye, and like the cop said he looked like the Joker, and so that got reported as he was dressed as a Joker, but he actually wasn't.
Oh, was this the guy who was? Yeah, it was was it the Dark Knight Rises?
Yeah.
Yeah, the guy who shot up the. Oh yeah, the Aurora. What is it? Yeah, that guy. You never hear about that guy because they didn't kill him, right?
No. He had
So-
like bombs in his house and stuff like that. Yeah, I believe he went to trial, but
Yeah, never heard about him again.
no.
I mean, I'm sure there's not much to say. I'm sure he's probably not a really interesting person to
No.
talk to. Hey, what's the most insane thing you've done in your life? Oh, I already know. Enjoy the electric chair. Say hi to Satan for me. See you in hell.
Was that in Colorado? I'm not sure if they had the death penalty in Colorado.
They need to have the death penalty mandatory. 3-day trial. Televised electric chair. Made by Tesla. Let's live in those countries.
And then this week you got Gemini Man coming out, which I will not be watching.
What the hell's that one?
It's the one with Will Smith where he's fighting himself, a younger version of himself, and it's directed by Ang Lee.
Okay, yeah, I'm not going to be seeing that.
Although
I-
they're-
Have you ever heard anything about that Ad Astra? Because it looked interesting, but then I've had people say it's like being handcuffed in a theater for 3 hours. So I don't know.
I like, it didn't get great reviews, but also it got like a middle review. It's like it's okay, and then like, but I heard like it's pretty straightforward sci-fi movies, which seems wildly different from how they're advertising it, which they seems they want to like hide things and be mysterious and be 2001. This is like the next 2001, and apparently it's absolutely not that whatsoever.
Okay,
So yeah, I am just as confused. So
they're not going to run out.
I'll see it when it comes to VOD.
Yep.
I'm more likely to enjoy it if I'm not if I can walk around the house and watch it.
Yeah. If I can do this with no shirt on while eating chili, I get a lot out of this movie, a lot more. I just don't like going to the theaters anymore.
Yeah.
It's just like today, me and Grayson, we go to see this movie at 1 o'clock on a Saturday. And we have like 15,000 movie theaters around here, so I try to pick the one with the lowest population count. You go in there to watch the movie, and it's like no one was talking through the movie, but there's lots of phones, bright fucking screens out. Text real quick. No, you don't. And then, people are giggling. Somebody farted really loud. And it's like, this is why I hate this.
Well, this movie garnered no reaction from the audience that I was with. So
Yeah.
I imagine this like amplified anything that people were doing in the audience because like it was so quiet.
Yeah,
Because there was nothing to laugh at. There's nothing to be scared at. It was just a sullen, dark movie.
yeah, there weren't a lot of jump scares in this.
Oh fuck! I had like something to talk about. I immediately forgot it. So.
We can wait.
I can't remember if it was like something about the theater going experience or the movie again.
I don't know. I mean, they made a pile of money off this, so
Yeah, they didn't spend a lot on it, so in the first place, so
$50 million,
and yeah.
and they made 400 million so far.
But yeah, Gemini Man. The interesting thing about it is it was shot at 120 frames per second.
Okay.
I'm not sure why. Maybe to make better 3D. But yeah, I'm not gonna watch it just to see that.
Yeah. we can watch
Although,
that.
like they shot The Hobbit at 60 frames per second, I actually like really enjoyed that because it kind of had frantic action to it, but because the frame rate was so smooth, like you could pay attention to all the frantic action.
Oh, okay.
But other people seem to have been like sickened by it, like it just didn't make sense to them.
I remember The Hobbit as being one. The only way we could see it was we had to watch it in 3D.
Yeah.
The only thing that had enough open seats. I was like, okay, we'll do this in 3D because it was IMAX 3D. And yeah, I actually didn't hate that. I was like, oh, that really looks kind of cool, like the 3D and that. Now the other two I just watched standard.
Yeah.
They don't push that 3D stuff like they used to. So
No.
but it was. I actually remember enjoying The Hobbit in 3D, but yeah, I just don't do those kind of movies as much anymore. So I'm still like way behind on the Marvel movies. I gotta watch Endgame. There's no reason why. It's not like I'm diametrically opposed to the movie. It's just like,
I think Endgame's like on Netflix now. I can't remember.
yeah, it is. I
Okay.
passed by it and I was like, why don't I watch this? Let's watch the documentary about the CIA drug experiments. You
I
know,
mean, that's more important anyway. So
I get drug into.
yeah, I
movies.
mean, you'll just through osmosis of pop culture, you know what happened in the Marvel movies.
Yeah. Well, speaking of Joker and Marvel movies, and your Martin Scorsese made some comments that got some people angry.
Yeah, he said that the Marvel movies aren't art or whatever, or
Yeah.
not cinema.
Art. He might be right, but damn, are they entertaining?
Yeah,
And that's what they're supposed to be.
yeah. Well, it's like we've said before, like movies nowadays are roller coaster rides. Like if you want like engrossing stories, then you need to watch television shows.
Yeah.
Because there you get interesting character reactions, and they actually have time to tell a character story. Multiple of them.
Makes me wish, like, if they could bring Stanley Kubrick back to life and have him direct, like, the next Marvel movie. You know, it'd be interesting to see that in the style.
See Stanley Kubrick hate fuck a Marvel movie.
Or no, be genuine about it. And
Oh, okay.
his best version of that, which would probably be like a lot of characters and in static positions, like looking at stuff. And I try to guess what Kubrick would do, like with superpowers and stuff. Like how would that be?
But only like 3 characters.
Yeah,
It's like
Yeah,
we're not, no guest appearances.
just a lot of long shots and then interstitial dialogue. That's like, you heard that so and so died, right? Yeah, just people like talking but not. Looking at each
I think he would do like the Silver Surfer movie, but like he wouldn't do like the cool action stuff. It'd be like the Silver Surfer who's like looking for the next planet, and that's the entire movie. It's
Yep.
just surfing through the solar system, like no action whatsoever. Just the inner monologue of the Silver Surfer.
And David Lynch does the next Guardians of the Galaxy. There's like 15-minute scenes of Groot dancing. That, nothing else. And like with a background with a bunch of like contrasting colors moving. They keep talking about another season of Twin Peaks. It's
Yeah.
a rumor mill.
We'll see. I mean, at this point, though, the entire cast has died. But
Yeah, keep going. Kyle MacLachlan's still alive.
yeah, no, but they've so far. Well, what was his name? Robert Forster died today.
Yeah, I know.
And it's like that was like the 4th person from that fucking show that died.
Yeah. Yeah, time is. Well, he was almost 80, but
Yeah, but
I liked him. I remember that guy from when I was a kid. He was like the captain in the Black Hole. Not probably his best role, but
no.
I just remember he was in that Quentin Tarantino movie.
Yeah, he was in Jackie Brown. Yeah,
He's
he's also
part of that movie.
yeah.
And then Samuel L. Jackson was in that movie, and Robert Forster was probably the more interesting character.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he was also there was an Elmore Leonard what's it? That Out of Sight movie.
Yeah.
Got a TV show, and he was in the TV show.
Okay, yeah, I do remember that.
Which is fine. It's a fine, whatever procedural drama. It's with him in it.
Well, Elmore Leonard is one of those writers that's really got a mixed bag with Hollywood and with TV because, his books are amazing, but sometimes the adaptations of those are just so bizarre.
I remember the one that seemed to be like the most like diverging qualities was that one. There's one with like Owen Wilson and Freeman. What's his name?
Morgan?
Yeah, Morgan Freeman. That was like
Yeah.
terrible, but I think you like read the book and said the book's good, but the movie's terrible. I can't even remember what the movie it is.
Let's see.
think it was Owen Wilson and Morgan Freeman.
Yeah. Let me look this up real quick. Because I think they've done like...
It's like I don't think I've read any Elmore Leonard novel. I just like know, like, oh, this is a movie or TV series based on his stuff. Is it popping up at all?
Well, it's coming up, but in which one is it? Jackie Brown is one of them. Kill Shot? Nope, that's not it.
The Big Bounce?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm
yeah,
talking about.
that was also a remake of a film from the 60s. Yeah, I remember that one.
Did you read the book?
No, that's not the one I read the book.
Oh, okay, never mind.
I can't think of which one it was that he did. Or maybe it was Be Cool.
Isn't that the sequel to Get Shorty?
Yeah.
That's got The Rock in it. He plays like a gay, like, limo driver.
I don't know. But anyway, Elmore Leonard's someone who's...
And there's a Get Shorty TV show on Netflix, which I never fucking watched.
Yeah, I don't know much about that.
I remember, like, people love Get Shorty, but, like I'd have to, like, rewatch it because I kind of think, like, I'll hate it the second time around. But people seem to love... It had a weird, like, almost, like, Tarantino-esque weirdness to it that I think people liked at the time, but I wonder if I rewatched it, like, if any of it hold up.
It's a quirky movie from a time when they were making a lot of quirky movies.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, this is going to be different.
James Gandolfini as like a hitman or stuntman / hitman or bodyguard gets thrown down the stairs by John Travolta.
Yeah. Yeah, that was...
He gets a minivan when he's like, he wanted a Cadillac. And they're like, this is the Cadillac of minivans. They keep saying that. It's like, well, that's great advertisement for fucking, was it Chrysler or whatever?
Yeah, that was a quirky movie, but I don't know if I necessarily... I watched it once, and I was like, okay.
Yeah.
But I like his books. Like, I like his detective books, like Rum Punch, and some of those is like the most hard-boiled shit. I mean, he writes some awful, or he died in 2013.
Oh, he did? Oh, okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, he was in World War II. he was like 87 when he died. Yeah, he wrote some of the harshest dialogue. I can't even say it on the show. But, I mean, they were bad characters. Like, all the bad people said the worst things a human being can say about other people.
Yeah.
But just this constant invective, and that's what I always liked about Elmore. Because Elmore Leonard was basically like a pulp writer.
Yeah.
He's written a lot of books. A lot of books. I mean, 310 to Yuma was the book he wrote.
Really? Huh.
Yeah, he was writing Westerns back in the 50s when that paid. And so he was, because I heard about Elmore Leonard because I liked Harlan Ellison, who was kind of doing the same thing, but in the sci-fi genre, where he's just like a pulp writer. Just write.
Yeah.
Paid by the word kind of guys. I don't know if they don't really do that anymore.
No.
Yeah, so he has a huge body of work. But Elmore Leonard was one of those dialogue masters. Like, oh, I could see people really talking like this. And wow, this dialogue is mind-warping. Like, the ways racism is described in some of his books, like the real racist characters. Like, I've never even heard of stuff like this. Where is this guy getting this? But, yeah. So anyway, Elmore Leonard, check it out. Speaking of which, I'm reading the new Stephen King book right now.
What's that one called?
The Institute.
Okay.
It's basically telekinesis and mind reading. Like, they find kids that can do this. No, nothing beyond that. Nothing really supernatural, but just really, really evil. It's evil human Stephen King story. Well, there's no monster, but the people that are taking these kids to study them are monsters. They're just killing everyone. But they're doing it in the name of science.
Is there any connection to the Firestarter universe?
I don't know. I've heard yes and I've heard no. It's hard with Stephen King to figure out what's connected to what, because sometimes they're written that way.
Yeah, they're either all connected or none of them are connected.
Yeah, or it's standalone. So I don't know. I've heard this is kind of. I'm only 25% through the book, so I've heard this is in the vein of Firestarter, but I don't know if it's in the same universe.
I only saw the movie, so I don't even know. I just know it was based on a Stephen King book, wasn't
Yeah, Firestarter was a Stephen King.
it? Okay.
Better, much better book than a movie. All the Stephen King cocaine books are much better. The cocaine era Stephen King, those novels are awesome. The movies are terrible, usually. They'll give you a flavor of the book, but the books are a lot better.
Well,
They're very frantic.
how does this book stand up to Cocaine King?
This is more the reflective King. I'm kind of in the, the fall of my existence.
Yeah.
Like, the autumn of our discontent or whatever. So yeah, this is more the it's more people driven. It's like good folksy people that are set up with this backstory, and it's like these are the good guys and these are the bad guys, and they're just unrelentingly horrible bad people. And
Are they in Derry or Maine at all, or is
oh, this is in South Carolina or North
Okay.
Carolina? Something like that. Yeah, he's branched out. But yeah, and it's like a weird, it's like kind of like the Stephen King universe.
what's it? Does it focus on the kids or just like the scientists?
It's the kids mainly, and then there's like two diverging storylines of a troubled ex-policeman. That part's told and set up, and then there's the kids, and then at some point they're going to converge.
Okay.
So that's where I'm at now. The Stephen King book universe, since Mr. Mercedes, is kind of bleak. It's kind of like it's like what I call the fucked up America, where there's like lots of poor people, lots of homeless people, and people trying to work together to keep their communities going. Like that's what Stephen King thinks is going on in middle America. And of course Stephen King's like super political in his real life, so he doesn't beat you over the head with it, but he's always like it's insinuated that like big powers that are running things are fucking evil, and, and especially if they have R's after their names, politically. So you're always going to get a dose of that. Ever since Mr. Mercedes, it's always been that kind of like, it's basically like novels written as if the Depression is going on, but modern times, and that's why these characters are down on their luck, or A, B, or C, and then we throw magic and stuff. But the cocaine era Stephen King was just crazy, like It, which is a much crazier book than what people realize because they like the movies. Because when you explain to people, it's like, in the book, one of the ways they broke the Pennywise the Clown's hold over him was they all had sex, like as a group. And it's like, no, that didn't happen. It's like, yeah, it did. Read the book. Not included in the movies, interestingly enough. So, yeah, that's fun. I always like to read my yearly Stephen King book. I know I'm generally going to like it. Of course, the last one, the one about the Koopa Chabra or whatever, that was really grim and dark. Like whole families got wiped out in that one, but because he'd introduce these characters and talk about them, and they all seem kind of like these sad people, and then they just through the machinations of this shape-shifting goblin, these people just slaughter each other. Sometimes it was like kids and stuff. It's like, whoa.
I heard there's going to be a new Expanse novella coming out soon.
Oh, good. Still waiting for when does that come out on Amazon? The next series.
December, I think.
Into December or something like that.
Yeah, I'm real excited for that because, like we've said a million times, but I'll say it again. So, Bowl of Burns is the weakest book, so it's potentially the most interesting season because what they can do with it. Because like one thing the TV show does is that it spends more time with other characters,
Mhm.
and like the book, like it kind of things down. Like the universe got so big that they went smaller with that book, like limited
Right.
characters, one planet, and so it looks like this season like they're gonna jump around to everything. So that might make it more interesting than like what actually happened on the planet.
Yeah, the previews they had looked strong.
Yeah, and we'll see how much money that Amazon's dumping into that.
Alcon's still producing it, so
Yeah,
so they're just writing the checks instead of sci-fi.
yeah, pretty much.
Or
Well, actually, well, no, because like they
What's-
paid for their own production. I forget how the deal worked. Like I think because they sold off international rights to people that weren't sci-fi. Because like in other parts of the world, The Expanse is a Netflix series,
right, yeah.
but now it's just all over the world. Now it's just an Amazon series. So
Yep. See what happens there. Oh yeah, General Motors still on strike.
strike update.
Yep, strike update. Well, now they, because my brother-in-law was here last night to watch my son's game, and he'd tell me they're doing, all the critical maintenance people that were allowed to stay in the plant to keep like the powerhouse stuff running, they pulled all those people out now. So now there's zero continuity of operations at any of those plants, and they said today that the weekly strike benefit pay is going to go way up. So that means they could be out through January at this point. So this could be the end of it all right here. We'll see what happens. Because now we're approaching.
World in Conflict.
What's that one?
It's a video game called World in Conflict.
Oh, okay. It looked like a box of discs or something.
It is.
I mean, like DVD thing.
Yeah. It's more
Oh,
than
yeah.
that, so. See, here's a piece of the Berlin Wall.
Oh, okay. That
Here's
came with that?
Yep. Here's a History Channel DVD about the falling of the Berlin Wall.
Okay.
I reinstalled this game, but I still haven't finished it. It's basically like it's essentially like a larger scale version of Red Dawn.
Oh, so it's more like Red Storm Rising, like the Clancy book?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think I've ever actually read that book, but yeah.
It's, I mean.
Oh, yeah, here's the other side.
Oh, okay. Pretty cool game.
Yeah, it's a real time strategy game, but it's more like unit based rather than like sending blobs of armies at each other.
Oh, okay. Who made that one?
I don't know. So I don't think they're around anymore, but
It's a pretty sophisticated looking box art there.
Massive Entertainment. Again,
Oh, okay.
I don't believe they're around anymore. Oh yeah, this was like the deluxe edition. I just said, yeah, I want that. And yeah, because it comes with a bunch of shit. And, I mean, this is back when video games came with a bunch of shit.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's got that History Channel DVD. You can give this one to a friend to play for 10 days. You got the elaborate instruction manual.
Oh, yeah, those things. With your keyboard, map. How old is that game?
Oh shit, this is probably like 2004, maybe.
Oh, okay. Wow, ancient history.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they don't put game manuals like this in video games anymore.
No, they haven't done that in years. Still remember when World of Warcraft launched. Guys had these like phone books of things you could collect and do, and manuals, and grown men, by the way. Just,
Oh yeah, like I think I had your edition of the Klingon Academy, like the space thing,
yeah.
and that just had like a literal like spiral binder book of like how to fly the spaceship.
Oh yeah.
2007.
Oh, let's see. Watched a movie on Netflix this week.
Yes.
watch the Christopher Pine vehicle, Outlaw King, which was a story about a guy I didn't know anything about, Robert the Bruce. I heard that name. It didn't mean anything to me.
Yeah, I have no idea about the, they say like William Wallace. And I think that's in, the, like I've never even watched Braveheart. I just like know things about it. Like I don't.
Braveheart's a cool movie.
Yeah, so I essentially like have no touchstone or of history about any of this. So I don't know how much of it is true or not.
Well, I did a little back checking because it seemed like, well, see, this ties into a lot of things because remember that, how long ago was that? Remember when I was building those giant wooden trebuchets?
Yeah.
Okay, the one that they fired off in this movie,
Yeah.
when the king goes outside with the sword, and he's like, it took me 4 months to build this thing. I'm going to shoot it. Well, that was the Warwolf. That was the one I have in the basement, like a miniature model of it.
Yeah.
So I know that like the king, all these people in this movie are real people.
Yeah.
Now, as far as, did he fight the prince at the battle at the end? Happened. It was a cool idea.
Yeah.
But so I know these people are real and the conflict was real, but I don't know, like, in what order it happened, and all the things that went on in the movie seemed more like Shakespearean dramatic than maybe, life doesn't often come together that cleanly for people. Yeah, kill the guy in the church because you're not supposed to do that. All that.
So what is like? So he's married off to this one girl, like I imagine for like land things or whatever. But like, did he have a wife beforehand? Because he has a kid already, right?
No, I don't think so.
Oh,
I don't recall that, at least.
because I thought like that one girl that, like his wife and daughter are kidnapped. But I thought like the daughter was like from a different wife or something. Because like they're only like their age difference is like 10 years or whatever.
All right, yeah, he did. Yeah, that's right, he did. I watched this a week ago, so. Yeah, he did. I'm not sure what happened to her.
So I didn't know if he was like married to 2 wives or she died or something. Or...
No, this was still conventional Christianity back then.
Oh yeah.
He didn't do the multiple wives. That didn't come. That was never part of Western culture until the Mormons came along. But yeah.
Or he just killed his last wife so he can marry the new wife for land.
Yeah. Well, they weren't. I know he has a daughter. I think his last wife died.
Okay.
But I don't know if she died as a result of the Civil War they were leading against the British,
or like cholera or whatever was going around.
People died from an tooth infection. I mean, anything kill you. But yeah. So this is a story of a guy called Robert the Bruce. He's a Scottish figure. Led the, I don't know, was this the 3rd or 4th War of Scottish independence? But yeah, if you've watched Braveheart, this basically like takes place from the time that guy's killed. This guy takes over and leads a different revolt, a more successful one.
Yeah. With with a very small amount of people, it's like we got 50 people, now we have 40.
Yeah, he's basically on the run for most of the movie. It's kind of like the story of the American Revolution.
Yeah.
Where Washington led the greatest retreat across, the American colonies until like the last year. After Valley Forge, and then they started winning battles because they just numerically were beating the British down.
Oh, you fight dirty too. It's like, we're not gonna stand and fight you. We're gonna wait till you go into church and stab you to death when you leave your swords outside.
Yeah, there's a lot of guerrilla fighting.
Yeah.
Because that's how small armies win against big armies. You don't all stand in it. Like I said last week, you don't all stand in a field in Pennsylvania with rifles and shoot each other. That's all weight of numbers there. But I enjoyed this movie. I watched it front to back, and I generally watched the screen the whole time. It wasn't like background.
I mean, I didn't hate it, but it was just kind of just a movie. It's another like Netflix middling movie that's like it's totally fine, but I wasn't like necessarily impressed by it. But I didn't know if this was another production rescue or it seemed like, like it seemed like in between like the production of Game of Thrones just like made a movie in between seasons or something, because there seemed to be like some crossover and like characters and kind of look and stuff like that. But
The same production people.
oh, it is okay.
Yeah, because a lot of this was filmed on location, Scotland and England.
Oh, okay.
Mostly British cast too. This Christopher Pine was the one of the few.
Yeah, I think when I saw trailers for this movie, they seem to like it's like he's the outlaw king, and then like I think they kind of gave off more like look how cool he is vibe, and in this movie he's just very like he doesn't like have a large personality. He's very understated in the entire movie.
He's kind of like more of a consistent leader than a charismatic one.
Yeah.
He knows what he wants to do. He knows how he wants to do it, and he's willing to take some chances. But at the end of the day, it's like, well, you're either gonna follow me or you're not.
Yeah, he seems to be honest. Like, he fucking kills that guy in the church, and he's like, hey, I killed that guy, right? Do you still want to follow me? He's like, yeah. That guy named Douglas, he just screams Douglas when he's killing people.
Yeah. Yeah, because that the guy was trying to get his family name back and see him. I'll fight with you. Sure.
It seemed weird when he got back to his family's castle, and like they throw the soldiers in the well, and like he's like, poison the well. It's like, aren't people gonna use that? But all right, fuck it, whatever.
Yeah. Do it. Yeah, that was. It was another.
I thought there's like that one interesting part where I forget, like they see somebody's like coming after them in the woods, and like they all like are like running into the river, and like they have like this half fight in the river, like just to get people back on the boats, and like 10 of them die or whatever, and there's like the boat's full, and there's just like people hanging off the sides of the boats. Like I thought that was an interesting fight scene.
Yeah, that was a good example of. Well, that was the guy they met on the path.
Oh yeah, okay.
Told him they could pass, and then he just turned around and screwed him because that was a lot of that warfare back then. A lot of the politics of it were mind-bendingly complex. It's like, if I kill all these people, I can get some of their land, and but they've lived there for like 500 years, and the families know each other. Time to take the sword to them, and so yeah, it was. I mean, it's one of those fun medieval romps. Like, you don't know everything that's going on. That's
I guess it has a happy ending.
well, it again, it takes. Oh, what was it? It takes like 300 years before that's all like sorted out to where they.
But it's like the guy lived on to have like a full life and had a family and everything like that, and didn't die horribly as far as I know.
Yeah.
And like his children are still like in royalty today or whatever.
Oh yeah. Well, that's when they accepted them into that. And I know that the king was that King Richard the First. Like that guy's a genuine bad dude. Like, he is. You cannot make him worse than he really was. I mean, he was a scary king. I don't. I mean, a lot of those people, like, you look at their histories and then their actual histories. He was a scary guy because he was 6'2" in an era when most men were a little bit over 5 feet. So he was just naturally intimidating. It was like having a basketball player that could swing a sword, like yell at you, like that was. But he was kind of notorious for being. He hated the Scottish because he was always having to. Because you got to remember, at this time too, they wanted to take the Holy Land, and the Crusades were going on, and he was always like, "Fuck, I have to deal with this." Basically, what they consider a civil war, what the Scottish consider a war for independence. It's like, I got to take attention away from that to fight this. Because that was the whole thing with this movie, is how expensive this war was. When William Wallace was leading it, that's why the Scottish revolted under this guy, because the English were taxing the Scottish to pay for the whole war.
Yeah.
and that of course it's always taxes that lead to this shit. So
Well,
it's not-
that's when they go into town to pay taxes, and that's when you see like a court, William Wallace's quarter of him hanging from a cross, and that's when like shit starts acting up.
yeah. Yeah, there's a fine line between crossing the line between intimidation and just enraging the public. But, yeah, it was an enjoyable medieval romp. I don't know if I learned anything about history. Learned a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit.
So check it out if you're interested in that. Because a lot of this stuff seemed to be like the post, what was it, the post Game of Thrones. There was a lot of things that came out around this time. It's like kind of the, we'll try to find something new. And this one, they weren't launching a franchise with this. This is just one of those like weird Sky News, or who was producing this? Some British TV company.
ITV4 or something.
Yeah, these are their historical biopic things they like to do every so often.
Well, at first, like when I saw previews for this, I thought it was like a TV show. I was like, oh, Chris Pine's doing a Netflix TV show, and then it was just a movie. It's like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
'Cause it's not that. I mean, I think it's like exactly 2 hours and 2 minutes or something, so it's not that long.
No, it's and again, it's a fairly straightforward story.
Yeah,
If
yeah.
you don't understand the history and politics, it's like swords, fighting.
So what the weird thing with the kid who like he thinks he's dead, but he comes back and like I saved the crown, and then he dies with the crown.
Yeah. Yeah, that was supposed to be his crown. Yeah, there were some touching moments. I mean, this was kind of in the vein of Braveheart, so they tried to do a little bit of that, but with maybe a less charismatic, more practical leader.
They like hung his wife in a bird cage like over the castle.
Yeah, that's a horrible way to die. Didn't end up killing her, but yeah, that's death by exposure. Because all his brothers were dead by the end of the movie.
Yeah,
Last one left.
yeah, I think so.
One brother got killed the river raid. The other one got disemboweled.
Yeah,
Um,
and hung.
yeah, at the same time. Yeah, it was a lot of brutality in those times.
But yeah, that one part at the end, ridiculous for like the king's son, or I guess it was the king at the time. Like they have a confrontation, and he's like crying and walking away. It's like, yeah, that would never happen.
They'd
No.
never let that guy walk away. They'd
Yeah.
hold him for ransom.
Yeah, I was pretty sure that he was gonna hold him there and like get his wife and kid back, and they're like, no, just let him walk away. We'll get him back eventually.
Yeah, that totally did not happen that way. But yeah, so that was. There were some good scenes in this. Most
It's
of the
fine.
Most of the battle scenes were good. They were
Yeah.
close shot battle scenes though.
Yeah.
They didn't have a wide scope.
Well, I think like every battle had its kind of like idea that they expounded upon, and like the biggest one was like basically when they dig a spike trench for horses. Like that's probably the biggest scene.
Well, yeah, that was because you couldn't fight mounted men in armor very well, but if you get them into a bog and just rip them off the horses, then you could pretty. And the guys in armor were not getting through the bog easily, because that was their whole thing. Is like, we know this land, they don't, so they decided to fight them in the swamp, which would work. I mean, until the archers just came in and
And not a whole lot of archers in this show, but
well, archers, yeah, because the reality of that kind of warfare is always.
but yeah, but they're on the run, so
Yeah. Yeah. Once the
this movie's basically like horses and foot soldiers. That's pretty
Yeah.
much the entire.
yeah, because the archer stuff isn't fun, because that's just like short range artillery attacks. Have you ever seen like the guys who actually reconstruct English longbows and build them and use them exactly as they were? Those are devastating weapons. Even if you're in armor, that arrow is so heavy and coming so fast. Like, you don't just hide behind your shield and it sticks in the front of it. Most of the time, especially if they're shooting it high, that'll go right through your shield.
Yeah.
That's why you never massed men. You know, they kind of stretched them out in a line because the arrows would either land in front of or behind you. You didn't march in like a square where they just rain into your square. But yeah, those were pretty devastating weapons. Even by today's standards, they're pretty devastating. So just can't load a magazine of arrows.
Well, I can, but
Yeah.
but by then it's like why don't you just have a gun?
Dude, one of my friends at work, he showed me pictures. He has a new crossbow for deer hunting. He shot it at something at 100 yards. And because he had the arrow, he took pictures. At 100 yards, it dropped like half an inch. Fucking crossbow. Jesus Christ, dude. How much power is that thing pumping out? It's like, that's almost, that's a small drop for something big like that.
Yeah.
But that's deer hunting now. It's your crossbow rifle. Rocket assisted crossbow.
With your EOTech scope on it.
I don't know what kind of scoping system you have on it. It's just one of those weird crossbows where everything's all tucked in.
Yeah.
Not the ones that they're out like you're used to. It's just like it's got all these weird cambering systems, and it's internal and cock it very quickly. You're not like using the ratchet and stuff. All right. Well, that's it for me. You got anything else?
Oh, sure, but we're not going to talk about it.
All right. Well, this week for the American Greed Factory podcast, this is Nathan.
This is Conlon. Goodbye, America.